The sun rose slowly over the vast, golden sands of Egypt, casting long shadows that danced across the pyramid-studded skyline of the ancient city of Memphis. In the midst of the city's bustling streets, where merchants peddled their wares and priests chanted in the temples, a young girl was growing up in the palace of Pharaoh Teti, the first ruler of Egypt's sixth dynasty. Her name was Ankhnespepi, and though her early years were quiet and uneventful, her future would be anything but. As the daughter of Pharaoh Teti, she was born into a life of unparalleled privilege and responsibility. The royal court was filled with political intrigues, and her every movement was watched by those who sought to either manipulate her for their own gain or protect her from those with darker intentions. In this world of power and influence, the young princess would soon learn that she had a vital role to play in the destiny of Egypt. Ankhnespepi's father, Teti, was a visionary ruler who established the sixth dynasty. Following the end of the Old Kingdom, his reign, though relatively short, laid the foundation for the dynasty's continued strength. Under his leadership, Egypt had prospered. But Teti's rule was also marked by political struggles, as powerful men within the court sought to usurp him. In this environment, Ankhnespepi learned the importance of strength, diplomacy, and loyalty. While she was still young, she understood the political currents swirling around her. The royals, especially the women, had to navigate a complex web of alliances and rivalries. And Ankhnespepi's survival would depend on her understanding of this delicate balance. Despite the ever-present danger of palace intrigue, Ankhnespepi was sheltered from the chaos of court life for most of her childhood. She grew up surrounded by the wonders of Egyptian culture, the magnificent temples, the grand processions in honor of the gods, and the intricate art and architecture that defined the civilization. But even within the palace, there was a palpable sense of power. Every decision made by her father, Teti, rippled across the land, and Ankhnespepi knew that one day she would be a part of that legacy. The throne of Egypt was a coveted prize, and it would be her marriage that would set the course for Egypt's future. Ankhnespepi was not alone in her royal upbringing. Her mother, perhaps an influential queen or a lesser royal consort, helped raise her with an understanding of the importance of loyalty to the crown. The young princess was taught to be strong, wise, and politically astute, with an emphasis on maintaining the dynasty's control over Egypt. In these formative years, the young Ankhnespepi developed a keen mind and a sharp understanding of Egypt's political landscape. But above all, she learned that the heart of Egyptian power lay not just in the strength of the pharaoh but in the alliances formed through marriage and kinship. As the years passed, Ankhnespepi matured into a beautiful young woman admired for her intelligence and grace. But she was more than just a princess. She was the key to consolidating Egypt's power in the coming decades. Her father, Pharaoh Teti, had only one true legacy in mind, ensuring the stability of the sixth dynasty, which had been precariously established. To this end, Ankhnespepi's future had already been decided long before she understood the full implications of her marriage. The fate of Egypt, the land of the Nile, and the pharaohs who ruled it rested in the alliances she would help solidify. The young princess's marriage would be one of the most pivotal events in Egyptian history. She was to marry a man named Pepi, who would soon rise from the ranks of Egypt's noble families to claim the throne for himself. Pepi, a man of ambition and strength, was already recognized within the royal court as a potential successor to Pharaoh Teti. For Ankhnespepi, her marriage to Pepi was not just a union of two hearts, but a strategic partnership designed to safeguard Egypt's future and further entrench her own influence within the royal court. Their union was more than ceremonial. It was a political move that would shape the course of Egypt's history for generations to come. Pepi and Ankhnespepi's marriage was a powerful alliance between two of the most influential families in Egypt. But even as Ankhnespepi's marriage to Pepi solidified their political influence, she began to realize the immense responsibility placed upon her shoulders. It was not just her father's kingdom that she had inherited, it was an empire of power, intrigue, and destiny. As Ankhnespepi entered adulthood, the weight of her role in Egypt's future became more apparent. Her marriage to Pepi was not just an alliance. It was the fulcrum on which the entire dynasty's survival rested. But the path ahead would not be easy. Ankhnespepi, now queen consort, was thrust into a world where every word spoken and every action taken had the potential to either strengthen or destabilize the empire. Her father's legacy, the reign of Pharaoh Teti, was marked by both triumphs and trials. While he had managed to consolidate the rule of Egypt after the turmoil that had plagued the end of the Old Kingdom, his position was never entirely secure. Teti's rule had been fraught with challenges from within the court, with rival nobles and military leaders vying for power. His untimely death had left Egypt vulnerable, and the kingdom was in desperate need of a strong leader to secure its future. It was in this precarious time that Ankhnespepi's marriage to Pepi became all the more vital. The transition from Teti to Pepi I was not without its difficulties. As the new pharaoh, Pepi I faced immense pressure from rival factions within the royal court, many of whom had supported Teti's rule and now sought to maintain their influence. Pepi's ascent to the throne was not guaranteed, and in these early years, his reign was fragile. It was here that the young queen's influence would be felt most acutely. Ankhnespepi, though still finding her footing in the male-dominated world of Egyptian politics, knew that her wisdom and counsel would be critical in ensuring her husband's success. In the early years of their marriage, Ankhnespepi worked quietly behind the scenes to solidify Pepi's position. She was not just a passive figurehead, rather, she was an active participant in the political machinations of the court. While Pepi navigated the public sphere, leading military campaigns and maintaining Egypt's external alliances, Ankhnespepi worked in the shadows, building relationships with key figures, overseeing royal decrees, and managing the delicate balance of power within the palace walls. Her role in the court was not limited to politics alone. The religious and cultural aspects of the kingdom also rested heavily on her shoulders. As queen, Ankhnespepi had the responsibility of ensuring that the spiritual life of Egypt was in harmony with the divine order. In a society where the pharaoh was seen as a living god, and the queen was his earthly counterpart, the queen's influence in religious matters was paramount. Ankhnespepi took an active role in the ceremonies that celebrated Egypt's gods and goddesses, ensuring that the favor of the divine was always on their side. In the grand temples and monumental shrines that dotted the landscape of Egypt, Ankhnespepi's name began to appear alongside that of her husband. The queen was immortalized in stone, her image gracing the walls of temples dedicated to gods like Hathor and Osiris. These images, which depicted her as a powerful and regal figure, were not just artistic representations, they were symbols of her strength, her connection to the divine, and her role as a protector of the kingdom. The queen's religious contributions also went beyond her personal image. She was instrumental in organizing lavish offerings to the gods, securing Egypt's place in the eyes of the divine, and maintaining the pharaoh's role as the supreme spiritual leader. Her involvement in religious affairs strengthened her political influence and ensured that her voice was heard, not just in the royal court but throughout the kingdom. But while Ankhnespepi worked to strengthen Pepi's rule through politics and religion, she knew that securing the future of the dynasty required more than just her influence. She needed to produce an heir. In ancient Egypt, the future of the kingdom was closely tied to the royal bloodline, and a strong successor was essential for ensuring the stability of the throne. The pressure to bear a male heir was immense, and Ankhnespepi's ability to do so would solidify her place in history. In time, her efforts were rewarded. Ankhnespepi gave birth to a son, whom she named Pepi II. The birth of the young prince was a momentous event for the kingdom. Pepi II's future reign would go down in history as one of the longest in Egypt's ancient history. But the implications of this birth were even greater than that. With Pepi II, Ankhnespepi ensured the continuation of the Sixth Dynasty and the stability of Egypt for decades to come. As the mother of the future pharaoh, Ankhnespepi's influence now extended beyond her own lifetime. She would serve as the guiding force behind her son's rule, shaping his character and preparing him to take the throne when the time came. In the years to follow, she would act as a mentor and advisor, ensuring that Pepi II would rise to the throne with the strength and wisdom needed to continue the legacy of his father and grandfather. Despite the challenges that lay ahead, Ankhnespepi had firmly established her place in Egypt's royal history. Her early years as queen consort had been marked by diplomacy, religious devotion, and political maneuvering, but it was her role as mother to the future pharaoh that would ultimately define her legacy. As the years passed, she would continue to serve as a pillar of strength for both her husband and her son, ensuring that Egypt remained strong and united throughout her lifetime. The early years of Ankhnespepi's reign were not without their struggles, but through her wisdom, strength, and political acumen, She had laid the foundation for one of Egypt's most enduring dynasties. The stage was set for Pepi I's rule to flourish, and with Ankhnespepi by his side, the sixth dynasty would rise to its greatest heights. The young queen, now firmly entrenched in the political and religious life of Egypt, would soon become one of the most influential women in the ancient world. As the years passed, the court of Pharaoh Teti, though a bustling hub of political life and royal intrigue, began to shift. The stability of the sixth dynasty, though hard-won, was always under threat from within. For Ankhnespepi, a young woman caught in the currents of power, this moment marked the beginning of a pivotal chapter not just in her life, but in the history of Egypt itself. The relationship between Ankhnespepi and Pepi I began as one forged in the fires of necessity. As the daughter of Pharaoh Teti, Ankhnespepi was inextricably tied to the fate of the kingdom. The sixth dynasty was still in its infancy, and its future rested on the political alliances made within the royal court. Pepi, a man of immense ambition and strength, had been gaining influence in the kingdom for some time. However, his rise to the throne was not assured. Egypt's nobility and military leaders were often reluctant to accept a new ruler, particularly one who had not yet proven himself. Pepi's challenge was not just to secure the throne for himself, but to consolidate his position among those who held sway in the kingdom. The marriage between Ankhnespepi and Pepi was no love match in the traditional sense. In ancient Egypt, marriages of royalty were political tools. Strategic alliances meant to ensure the continuation of dynasties and the stability of the throne. It was clear from the moment of their union that this was a marriage formed not merely for personal affection but to solidify Pepi's claim to the throne. As their marriage was arranged, Ankhnespepi became not just a wife but a key figure in the power struggles of the royal court. By marrying Pepi, she strengthened his position as the successor to her father, Pharaoh Teti, and thus linked her own fate to his success. While Pepi's supporters rallied to him in the court, Ankhnespepi's political acumen and royal lineage gave him the legitimacy he needed to rule. The political landscape of Egypt was not one of simple alliances. It was a delicate dance of power, influence, and sometimes subterfuge. The nobles of Egypt, many of whom had been loyal to her father, Teti, looked upon Pepi with skepticism. Despite his strong military background and noble lineage, Pepi lacked the pedigree and experience of a true king. As a result, Ankhnespepi's influence within the court became crucial. Ankhnespepi, now officially Pepi I's queen, knew well that her role was more than ceremonial. She understood that the success of their union and thus the survival of the sixth dynasty depended on how well she navigated the political intrigues surrounding her. From her first days as queen consort, she worked tirelessly to garner support for her husband among the influential figures in the court. Her ability to maintain relationships with powerful nobles, military leaders, and priests allowed Pepi to move forward with his plans to solidify his rule. Her presence at the royal court was not just to bolster Pepi's claim. It was also a symbol of unity and continuity. As the daughter of Teti, Ankhnespepi embodied the continuation of the royal bloodline, and her marriage to Pepi I symbolized the union of two powerful forces in Egyptian politics. It was through this union that the seeds for Egypt's future expansion would be sown. The strength of the couple's partnership, though initially political in nature, began to take on a more personal aspect as well. Pepi, though ambitious and driven, often found solace in Ankhnespepi's counsel. He trusted her judgment, and as his queen, she became an invaluable advisor. Pepi was often consumed by the demands of leadership, military campaigns, and the pressure of ruling a vast empire. But Ankhnespepi, with her sharp mind and deep understanding of the inner workings of the royal court, was able to provide him with a steady hand when navigating the complex world of governance. Together, the royal couple presented a unified front to the people of Egypt. Their marriage was symbolic not just of political stability but also of the gods' blessing. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh and queen were believed to be the earthly manifestations of divine power, and their union was seen as one that brought prosperity and favor from the gods. To the people, the strength of the royal marriage was a sign that Egypt's fortunes were secure. Behind closed doors, however, Ankhnespepi and Pepi faced their own struggles. The pressure of ruling Egypt weighed heavily on both of them. While Pepi navigated the political and military challenges of maintaining Egypt's power, Ankhnespepi was also forced to confront the harsh realities of court life. The jealousy and ambition of other members of the royal family were ever present. Yet, Ankhnespepi remained steadfast, using her intelligence and diplomacy to maintain the delicate balance of power. During their early years together, Ankhnespepi also began to take a more active role in the religious affairs of the kingdom. As queen, she was expected to not only support the pharaoh but to also play a significant part in ensuring the religious and spiritual well-being of Egypt. The queen's role in maintaining the favor of the gods was seen as just as important as the pharaoh's ability to lead in battle. In the temples of Egypt, where the gods were believed to walk among the people, Ankhnespepi's presence was increasingly prominent. She attended the grandest religious ceremonies, where she stood alongside her husband, Pepi, and ensured that the divine will of the gods was in alignment with their royal reign. As Egypt's queen, she became a symbol of fertility and divine protection, an embodiment of the goddess Hathor, and the life-giving power of the Nile. In the grand stone carvings and hieroglyphs that adorned the walls of temples, Ankhnespepi's image was immortalized alongside her husband's, reinforcing their role as the living gods of Egypt. Through her marriage to Pepi, Ankhnespepi became not only a wife and mother but also a queen of great political influence. Her ability to navigate the treacherous waters of court politics and her strategic role in supporting Pepi's rule ensured that the Sixth Dynasty would continue to thrive. Her wisdom, strength, and foresight would leave a lasting legacy not just for her own time but for the generations that would follow. As the queen consort of Pharaoh Pepi I, Ankhnespepi's role transcended the confines of mere royalty. She was a key architect in the shaping of Egypt's future, and her influence in the court and her efforts to strengthen the royal dynasty would resonate through the ages, securing her place as one of the most powerful women in Egyptian history. In the heart of the royal palace, where the walls echoed with the sounds of political discourse and the whispers of ancient power, Queen Ankhnespepi I's role had only just begun to take shape. As the consort of Pharaoh Pepi I, her influence went far beyond the confines of her royal title. She was not a mere figurehead, but a force to be reckoned with, an astute political operator whose wisdom and strength played a pivotal role in the success of the Sixth Dynasty. In the world of the Egyptian court, where allegiances could shift as quickly as the Nile's currents, Ankhnespepi was the steady hand that kept the ship of state from capsizing. In the beginning, Ankhnespepi's role was largely behind the scenes, where she worked to ensure the stability of Pepi I's reign. Egypt's political landscape was delicate. The power structures were often in flux, with nobles, military leaders, and priests all jockeying for influence. For Pepi I, securing his position was a continuous battle, one that required not just military might and divine favor, but also the careful management of court politics. Ankhnespepi, with her sharp intellect and deep understanding of the court's intricacies, became an invaluable advisor to her husband. Ankhnespepi's ability to navigate the power dynamics of the royal court was unmatched. In a kingdom where ambition often led to betrayal, her diplomatic skills were indispensable. She understood that to maintain the throne, Pepi I needed more than just military victories. He needed the loyalty of Egypt's most powerful families, the support of the priesthood, and the favor of the people. Her keen political insight allowed her to build these alliances, ensuring that Pepi's reign would remain strong. The queen's position in the court was also solidified by her relationship with the high-ranking officials and nobles who surrounded her. Egypt's bureaucracy was vast, and the queen was careful to cultivate strong relationships with key figures in the royal court. The chief priests, military leaders, and regional governors who held power throughout Egypt knew that Ankhnespepi was more than just the wife of the king. She was a key player in the political game. Her alliances were strategic, and through them she was able to ensure that the interests of Pepi I and the dynasty as a whole remained secure. Ankhnespepi was not just a political strategist, however. She was also a symbol of the royal authority that held Egypt together. In ancient Egypt, the queen was more than just a companion to the pharaoh, she was his partner in governance, sharing in the sacred duty of maintaining Ma'at, the divine order of the universe. As the wife of the living god, Ankhnespepi had a unique spiritual and political role. Her presence at state functions, religious ceremonies, and official events reinforced the divine legitimacy of her husband's rule. One of Ankhnespepi's most important roles in the court was as a mediator. The Egyptian court was a world of competing interests, where noble families often sought to advance their own agendas. These tensions could easily escalate into open conflict, and it was Ankhnespepi who often stood between the factions, carefully negotiating compromises and defusing potential crises. Her ability to unite people from different walks of life, priests, soldiers, and nobles, was a testament to her diplomatic acumen. Through her, Pepi I was able to govern without the distraction of internal strife, allowing him to focus on the greater challenges of ruling the empire. While Pepi I was the face of Egypt's military might and political power, Ankhnespepi's influence was felt most strongly in the daily workings of the court. She was often the one who ensured that the royal family's decisions were executed smoothly, overseeing the intricate bureaucracy that kept the kingdom running. Whether it was managing the royal finances, appointing officials to key positions, or arranging diplomatic missions, Ankhnespepi played an integral role in the behind-the-scenes workings of the state. Her influence also extended to the cultural sphere. The queen understood the power of symbolism and image in Egyptian society. As the mother of the future ruler, she knew that the legacy of the Sixth Dynasty would be shaped not just by political and military achievements, but by how the dynasty was remembered in the eyes of the gods and the people. Ankhnespepi's presence in religious ceremonies, her patronage of the arts, and her involvement in the construction of monumental works all helped to solidify the image of the royal family as divinely ordained rulers. The queen's influence in the realm of religion cannot be overstated. In ancient Egypt, religion was interwoven with every aspect of life, and the pharaoh's divine authority was upheld by the queen's support of the priesthood. Ankhnespepi's patronage of temples, her role in religious festivals, and her connections to the high priests helped to secure the divine legitimacy of her husband's rule. She was also believed to possess divine favor, and her role as the queen consort reinforced the notion that the gods watched over Egypt's rulers. But it wasn't just the formal religious ceremonies that benefited from Ankhnespepi's involvement. The queen's personal piety and devotion to the gods were seen as an example for the people. In a society where the welfare of the nation was seen as directly connected to the favor of the gods, Ankhnespepi's spiritual strength helped to maintain the stability of Egypt. She took part in offerings to the gods and even played a role in ensuring the prosperity of Egypt's agricultural cycles by overseeing the offerings made to the god of the Nile, Hapi. Ankhnespepi's role in the royal court was not just about political maneuvering or religious devotion, however. She was a queen who truly cared for the people of Egypt. Her efforts to maintain peace and stability within the court were matched by her dedication to the welfare of her subjects. As queen, she was expected to oversee the well-being of Egypt's citizens, ensuring that the kingdom remained prosperous and the people were protected from famine, disease, and other threats. Through her influence, Ankhnespepi helped to establish a period of peace and prosperity that allowed Egypt to flourish under Pepi I's rule. By the time Ankhnespepi had settled into her role in the royal court, her influence was undeniable. She was a queen who had not only solidified her husband's position on the throne but had also played an instrumental role in shaping the political, religious, and cultural landscape of Egypt. Pepi I's reign, though marked by military successes and external expansion, would not have been possible without the steady hand of his queen. Ankhnespepi was not just the consort of the pharaoh, she was the driving force behind his rule, a woman whose wisdom and strength ensured the prosperity of Egypt for years to come. As the reign of Pharaoh Pepi I continued, the needs of the kingdom became ever more complex. Egypt was surrounded by rivals, both to the north and the south, and the prosperity of the kingdom depended on the military strength that would safeguard its borders and protect its resources. While Pepi I, as pharaoh, was the official leader of Egypt's armies, Ankhnespepi I, as queen, understood that her role extended far beyond the confines of the palace. She was not just a passive observer of her husband's military campaigns. She was an active participant in the strategic and diplomatic decisions that shaped the course of Egypt's power. Though the queen was not a general in the traditional sense, her influence in military matters was profound. She understood that in order for Egypt to maintain its dominance in the region, the kingdom's military must be formidable, well-organized, and strategically adept. While Pepi I led his armies on the battlefield, It was Ankhnespepi who often played a critical role in the decision-making process and in providing the necessary support for military campaigns, particularly those in Nubia. During the early years of Pepi I's reign, Egypt faced growing pressure from the Nubian kingdoms to the south. These regions, rich in gold and other valuable resources, had always been a source of tension between Egypt and its southern neighbors. The Egyptian pharaohs had long maintained a delicate balance with the Nubians, trading and occasionally engaging in military campaigns to assert dominance over the area. However, as Pepi I consolidated his power and sought to expand Egypt's influence, the need for a decisive military action became apparent. Ankhnespepi recognized the strategic importance of Nubia to Egypt's future. Not only were the Nubian regions rich in resources, but they also controlled vital trade routes that connected Egypt to other parts of Africa and the Near East. The loss of these territories would be a devastating blow to Egypt's economy and its military capabilities. While Pepi I prepared his army for a southern campaign, it was Ankhnespepi who ensured that the logistics of war were carefully managed. The queen oversaw the provisioning of supplies, the recruitment of soldiers, and the coordination of diplomatic efforts to ensure that Egypt's alliances in the region remained intact. In addition to her role in the logistical aspects of war, Ankhnespepi also played an important part in the diplomatic negotiations with neighboring kingdoms. Before a military campaign could begin, it was essential to ensure that Egypt's allies remained loyal and that any potential adversaries were kept in check. Ankhnespepi worked tirelessly behind the scenes, using her political acumen to secure treaties and alliances that would give Pepi I's military efforts the greatest chance of success. She was able to influence neighboring rulers, persuading them to offer support or remain neutral during Egypt's campaigns. Her efforts were particularly important in the region of Nubia, where alliances and rivalries could shift rapidly. Ankhnespepi's ability to mediate between different factions and maintain peace when necessary was critical in ensuring that Egypt did not face a two-front war. Her diplomatic outreach to the Nubians, as well as her ability to negotiate with local leaders, allowed Pepi I to launch his campaigns with the confidence that Egypt's southern borders would be secured. When the time came for Pepi I to lead his army into Nubia, Ankhnespepi's influence was felt in the strategic decisions made. The Queen's Council helped Pepi choose the right time to strike and ensured that the military was prepared for the campaign's demands. She understood the importance of timing in warfare, recognizing that the right moment to advance could mean the difference between victory and defeat. As Pepi I's army marched into Nubia, Ankhnespepi's role shifted once more, this time focusing on maintaining stability within Egypt itself. With her husband away, she remained in the capital, overseeing the administration of the kingdom and ensuring that the everyday needs of the people were met. She also took the opportunity to solidify her power at home, strengthening her position as the queen consort and gaining the respect of the royal court. While Pepi I was embroiled in military campaigns in Nubia, Ankhnespepi remained the steady anchor at the heart of Egypt. Her efforts ensured that the military expeditions did not destabilize the kingdom internally, and she managed the day-to-day affairs of the state with skill and grace. She understood that while the battlefield was essential to securing Egypt's future, so too was the internal stability of the empire. Her ability to maintain control of the royal court, manage the kingdom's resources, and ensure the welfare of the people was indispensable to the success of Pepi I's military efforts. Though Ankhnespepi was not physically present on the battlefield, her influence over Egypt's military campaigns was undeniable. Her strategic planning, diplomatic negotiations, and administrative control were crucial to the success of Pepi I's campaigns in Nubia and beyond. The queen's role in military matters was a testament to her understanding of the complexities of leadership. She knew that a pharaoh could not rule alone, and that the strength of Egypt's military was not just in the prowess of its soldiers, but in the unity of its leaders. The Nubian campaigns, which were ultimately successful, marked a turning point in Egypt's history. Under the guidance of Pepi I and the behind-the-scenes influence of Ankhnespepi, Egypt was able to extend its reach further south than ever before, solidifying its control over key regions and resources. The spoils of war, including gold, ivory, and slaves, flowed into Egypt, bolstering the kingdom's economy and strengthening its military. In the years that followed, Ankhnespepi's role in the court continued to evolve. she remained a trusted advisor to Pepi I. Her influence growing stronger with each successful military campaign and diplomatic victory. She was no longer just a queen consort but a powerful figure in her own right, a woman who had played a crucial role in securing Egypt's future. Through her diplomatic efforts, logistical support, and careful management of Egypt's internal affairs, Ankhnespepi ensured that the military successes of Pepi I were not fleeting but enduring. The victory over Nubia was just one chapter in the larger story of her influence. The queen's ability to balance the needs of the kingdom, the military, and the royal court demonstrated her unparalleled leadership. She was a queen who not only supported her husband but also shaped the destiny of Egypt, ensuring that the sixth dynasty would continue to thrive for generations to come. While Pharaoh Pepi I was focused on military campaigns and political alliances, Queen Ankhnespepi I's influence permeated every corner of Egyptian life. In a kingdom where the divine and the earthly were inseparable, the queen's role went far beyond the political and military spheres. She was not only the consort of the pharaoh. She was a powerful figure in the religious and cultural life of Egypt, guiding the people's devotion to the gods and shaping the artistic and architectural legacy of her time. In ancient Egypt, religion was the bedrock of society. The pharaoh was not merely a king, he was considered a living god, the intermediary between the gods and the people. The queen, as the pharaoh's consort, was seen as a divine counterpart, a goddess on earth who played a vital role in ensuring the favor of the gods. Ankhnespepi I understood the immense responsibility that came with her role. As queen, she had to ensure that Egypt remained in the gods' good graces, and she used her position to elevate the nation's religious and cultural life. The gods of Egypt were central to the daily lives of the people, and the queen's involvement in religious affairs was indispensable. Ankhnespepi was not only a patron of the priesthood but also an active participant in the royal rituals that honored Egypt's gods. Her support for religious practices helped strengthen the bond between the pharaoh and the divine, ensuring that Egypt's prosperity would continue. In a time when religion and politics were intertwined, Ankhnespepi's role as a religious leader was just as important as her role as a political advisor. One of Ankhnespepi's most significant contributions to Egypt's religious life was her support for the construction and maintenance of temples. In ancient Egypt, temples were not just places of worship, they were symbols of divine power, representations of Egypt's relationship with the gods. These grand structures were the focal points of religious and social life, and the queen's patronage ensured that the temples of Egypt remained impressive, functional, and well-maintained. The queen was deeply involved in commissioning and overseeing the construction of these sacred spaces, ensuring that they were not only architecturally magnificent but also spiritually potent. The great temple of Hathor at Dendera, one of the most significant sites in ancient Egyptian religion, was among the many projects that Ankhnespepi I influenced. Hathor, the goddess of love, fertility, and motherhood, was especially important to the queen, who saw herself as the earthly embodiment of these qualities. Her support for the construction of temples dedicated to Hathor reinforced her image as a powerful maternal figure, closely tied to the fertility of the land and the prosperity of the nation. Ankhnespepi's patronage of religious institutions helped cement her as a central figure in the spiritual life of Egypt. Revered not only as the queen but as a divine consort who safeguarded the nation's connection to the gods. Beyond her involvement in temple building, Ankhnespepi was also deeply engaged in the ritual and ceremonial aspects of Egyptian religious life. In a kingdom where every aspect of life was seen through a spiritual lens, the queen's presence at religious festivals and rituals was vital. She often participated in the great festivals held in honor of the gods, standing alongside her husband as they made offerings to ensure the favor of the gods. The queen's participation in these public ceremonies reinforced her image as a divinely ordained figure, a powerful woman whose influence was both spiritual and political. Ankhnespepi's role in the royal court was not just one of leadership, it was one of spiritual guidance. As the mother of Pepi II, the future pharaoh, she was seen as the protector of the royal bloodline, ensuring that the divine order of the kingdom would continue. The queen's maternal role was elevated through her religious practices. Her actions were understood to have a direct impact on the fertility of the land and the well-being of Egypt's people. In this way, Ankhnespepi was seen not just as a ruler's wife but as a goddess herself, responsible for the prosperity and continuity of Egypt. Her influence extended beyond the walls of the palace and temples. Ankhnespepi's role in religious life was a central part of her public identity, and her involvement in these practices helped to shape the cultural identity of Egypt during her reign. The artistic representations of her, which adorned the walls of temples and tombs, emphasized her divine nature. In these depictions, she was often shown in the company of the gods, participating in rituals and making offerings. These images reinforced her status as a powerful, almost supernatural figure, an embodiment of Egypt's divine order. Ankhnespepi's influence on Egyptian culture was also seen in the way she promoted the arts. As a patron of the arts, she supported the creation of statues, paintings, and carvings that depicted her and her family in divine forms. These works of art not only glorified her role as queen but also reinforced the notion that the royal family was an earthly reflection of the gods. Through her patronage, the queen helped to create a lasting legacy of artistic achievement that would endure long after her reign. In addition to her support for the arts and architecture, Ankhnespepi also worked to ensure that the knowledge and wisdom of Egypt's priesthood were preserved. She understood that the priesthood held the keys to Egypt's cultural and spiritual heritage, and she made sure that the priests were well supported and respected. The queen's involvement in maintaining Egypt's vast collection of religious texts, rituals, and teachings helped preserve the kingdom's spiritual and intellectual heritage for future generations. Through her patronage, Ankhnespepi ensured that Egypt's cultural identity would remain strong and unbroken even as the political landscape of the kingdom shifted. Ankhnespepi's contributions to the religious and cultural life of Egypt were not just the result of her status as queen. They were the manifestation of her deep devotion to her country and its people. She understood the power of religion and culture in uniting a kingdom and ensuring its prosperity. By supporting the temples, festivals, and artistic endeavors of her time, Ankhnespepi ensured that the spiritual and cultural foundations of Egypt would remain strong, allowing the sixth dynasty to thrive and endure for generations. As a queen, Ankhnespepi was more than just the wife of Pharaoh Pepi I. She was a vital force in the religious and cultural life of Egypt, a woman whose contributions to the kingdom's spiritual well-being helped to secure its place in history. Her legacy as a patron of the arts and a protector of the gods would be remembered for centuries, and her influence would echo through the ages, long after her death. In the annals of Egyptian history, Ankhnespepi's name would be written not just as a queen, but as a divine consort who shaped the cultural and spiritual identity of one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. In the grand, sun-drenched halls of the royal palace, where incense mingled with the dust of the desert and the sounds of the bustling court faded into quiet reverence, the birth of a child was more than just a personal joy. It was a national event, for in Egypt, the line of succession was everything. The future of the kingdom, its continuity and stability, rested upon the birth of a male heir. And so, when Queen Ankhnespepi I gave birth to a son, the entire kingdom held its breath. For this child would not only secure her place in history but also shape the future of Egypt for centuries to come. The child born that day was named Pepi, a name that would become legendary in Egyptian history. Though no one could have known it at the time, this newborn would ascend to the throne and rule Egypt for an astonishingly long period, making his reign one of the longest in the history of the ancient world. Pepi II, the son of Queen Ankhnespepi I and Pharaoh Pepi I, would go on to become the king who carried the legacy of his parents forward, ensuring that the sixth dynasty would endure well beyond his own time. For Ankhnespepi, the birth of Pepi II was the culmination of a promise that the royal line would continue, that Egypt's power would be secured, and that her legacy as a queen would live on in the form of her son. The birth of Pepi II was not just a personal triumph for the queen. It was a vital political event that ensured the stability of the dynasty. In ancient Egypt, the birth of a male heir was not simply a moment of familial joy. It was a guarantee that the kingdom would not fracture and fall into chaos upon the death of the ruling monarch. Ankhnespepi, as a mother, knew the significance of her son's birth. In her heart, she understood that her responsibility did not end with bearing the child. It was only just beginning. The role of the queen mother was a powerful one in ancient Egypt, and Ankhnespepi would embrace it with the same diligence and wisdom she had applied to her other roles. She understood that the future of Egypt rested in the hands of her son and that she would be his first and most important teacher. Her influence on Pepi II's early years would shape not only his character but the course of Egypt's history for the years to come. As a young child, Pepi II was already being groomed for his future role as pharaoh. He was trained in the ways of governance, learning from the greatest teachers and scholars of the time. The queen, as his primary caretaker, would have been deeply involved in his education. She would have instilled in him the principles of leadership, ensuring that he understood the weight of the crown he would one day wear. She knew that the strength of the monarchy depended on the wisdom and competence of the ruler, and she took it upon herself to ensure that her son was prepared for the immense responsibilities of leadership. The Queen Mother's influence on Pepi II was profound. She taught him the importance of justice, of maintaining the balance of Ma'at, the divine order that kept the universe in harmony. She imparted to him the values of loyalty, diplomacy, and strength. Ankhnespepi understood that a ruler must be both a warrior and a statesman, and she made sure that her son was equipped to navigate the complex world of Egyptian politics. However, the queen's role as a mother was not just about formal education and training. She also provided her son with emotional and moral guidance. In a world where the gods were believed to be present in every aspect of life, Ankhnespepi would have helped instill in Pepi II the understanding that his rule was not just a political endeavor, it was a divine calling. As the son of the living god, the pharaoh, Pepi II had a sacred duty to uphold the divine order and protect his people. The queen's teachings would have shaped his worldview, ensuring that he ruled not just with power, but with the wisdom and compassion necessary to maintain Egypt's greatness. As Pepi II grew older, Ankhnespepi's influence continued to be felt throughout the court. She remained an important advisor to both her son and her husband, Pharaoh Pepi I. While Pepi I focused on expanding Egypt's borders and securing its military dominance, Ankhnespepi's efforts were directed toward ensuring that the internal structure of the kingdom remained stable. Her understanding of the political landscape, her relationships with key nobles and priests, and her ability to mediate between factions within the royal court all contributed to the continued success of the dynasty. But as the years passed and Pepi I's reign began to wind down, it was clear that the future of Egypt lay in the hands of the young Pepi II. Though he was still a child, his future as pharaoh was set in motion the moment he was born. His ascension to the throne seemed inevitable, but it would not be without challenges. Egypt was a kingdom filled with power struggles, and it was uncertain how the various factions within the royal court would respond to the young prince's rise. The Queen Mother, Ankhnespepi, was acutely aware of these challenges. She knew that her son would not be able to rule alone. He would need the support of his family, the military, and the priesthood. As a mother, she ensured that Pepi II's early reign would be backed by powerful allies. She made sure that the court was united behind her son and worked tirelessly to ensure that the transition of power would be smooth. Her guidance during this time was critical in preventing any internal unrest, ensuring that Pepi II would inherit the throne in peace. The birth of Pepi II marked the beginning of a new era for Egypt, but it was also the end of an era for Ankhnespepi. With her son now firmly in the position to one day take the throne, the queen's role began to shift. While she would continue to support Pepi II throughout his reign, her personal influence in the court began to wane as her son came into his own as the ruler of Egypt. Nonetheless, her legacy as a queen who had secured the future of the Sixth Dynasty and ensured the stability of the kingdom would live on through her son. The birth of Pepi II also marked a turning point in Egypt's history. Under his reign, Egypt would experience one of the longest periods of stability in its history. Though Pepi II's reign would face challenges, political intrigue, military threats, and dynastic struggles, his rule would be remembered as one of prosperity, built on the foundations laid by his mother, Ankhnespepi. The queen's influence, her wisdom, and her strength would continue to resonate through Egypt for centuries to come, ensuring that her son's reign would be marked by peace, stability, and the enduring legacy of the Sixth Dynasty. As the years passed, the relationship between Pharaoh Pepi I and Queen Ankhnespepi I deepened, not just as husband and wife but as partners in the governance of Egypt. While Pepi I led the armies and represented the nation to the outside world, it was Ankhnespepi who played an indispensable role in shaping the internal workings of the kingdom. The balance between foreign affairs, military campaigns, and the delicate management of the royal court was crucial to maintaining the stability of the Sixth Dynasty. In this intricate web of power, Ankhnespepi's influence was a steady and guiding force. Ankhnespepi's political acumen was unmatched. In a time when Egypt's royal court was rife with rivalries, factions, and ambitions, she skillfully navigated the turbulent waters of court politics. Though Pepi I's rule was characterized by military expansion and external triumphs, the foundation of his success rested on his ability to maintain unity within the kingdom. It was Ankhnespepi's subtle influence and her understanding of the delicate balance of power within the royal court that helped him achieve this unity. From the very beginning of Pepi I's reign, Ankhnespepi worked behind the scenes to ensure the loyalty of key nobles, military leaders, and priests. She understood that Egypt's future depended not just on the strength of its military but on the stability and harmony within its court. Ankhnespepi formed alliances with influential figures, many of whom had been loyal to her father, Pharaoh Teti, and now supported her husband. Her ability to maintain these relationships was a critical factor in Pepi I's successful consolidation of power. However, her influence wasn't limited to political maneuvering. Ankhnespepi had a deep understanding of the complexities of leadership and governance. As queen consort, she was often called upon to advise her husband on matters of state. Pepi I, though a capable and ambitious ruler, frequently relied on his wife's counsel. She had an uncanny ability to see the long-term consequences of a decision, and her insight into the broader implications of various political moves was invaluable. Whether it was navigating a potential rebellion, dealing with a powerful noble family, or maintaining Egypt's relationship with neighboring regions, Ankhnespepi's wisdom was indispensable. The queen's role in governance also extended to managing the internal affairs of Egypt. She was responsible for overseeing the royal household, ensuring that the day-to-day operations of the kingdom ran smoothly. From managing the royal finances to coordinating the distribution of resources across Egypt's vast territories, Ankhnespepi ensured that the kingdom's operations remained efficient and well-organized. She was also involved in ensuring that the temples, which were central to both the religious and political life of Egypt, were well-maintained and that the priesthood remained loyal to the crown. One of Ankhnespepi's greatest strengths as a queen was her ability to bridge the divide between the different factions within Egypt's elite. The royal court was filled with powerful families, military leaders, and priests, each with their own agendas and ambitions. Yet, Ankhnespepi knew how to maintain a delicate balance, ensuring that no one faction grew too powerful or threatened the stability of the throne. Her diplomacy was a key factor in preventing courtly intrigues from escalating into full-blown conflicts, ensuring that Pepi I could focus on the broader task of ruling the empire. Ankhnespepi's influence was also felt in the way she shaped the legacy of the Sixth Dynasty. She knew that Egypt's history would not be defined solely by military victories or territorial expansion, but by the lasting cultural and political institutions that would outlive any single ruler. Her contributions to Egypt's religious and cultural landscape, including her patronage of temples, public festivals, and monumental building projects, helped to solidify the dynasty's place in Egypt's long history. Through her work behind the scenes, Ankhnespepi ensured that Pepi I's rule was not just about military might but also about the careful management of Egypt's social, political, and spiritual life. She was a queen who understood that the strength of a kingdom lay not only in the power of its armies but in the unity of its people and the effectiveness of its governance. Her impact on Pepi I's governance was profound yet subtle. In many ways, Ankhnespepi was the stabilizing force that allowed her husband to focus on the broader issues of leadership and military campaigns. While Pepi I dealt with Egypt's enemies abroad, Ankhnespepi maintained the delicate internal balance that ensured Egypt's survival as a united kingdom. Her ability to navigate the complexities of court politics, her shrewd understanding of governance, and her influence in religious and cultural matters made her one of the most important figures in Egypt's history. Though much of her work was carried out in the shadows, Ankhnespepi's influence was felt in every corner of Egypt. Under her guidance, the Sixth Dynasty was able to maintain internal harmony, secure its borders, and foster the prosperity that would allow Egypt to flourish. As queen consort, Ankhnespepi proved that a ruler's power was not solely determined by the strength of his armies but by the wisdom and insight of the people who stood by him. Ankhnespepi's legacy was one of quiet strength and unwavering dedication to Egypt's future, while her husband led the charge in foreign conquests and military campaigns. It was the queen who ensured that Egypt remained stable, prosperous, and unified. Without her steady hand, the kingdom may not have weathered the challenges of Pepi I's reign. Her influence extended far beyond the palace walls and permeated every aspect of Egyptian life. In this way, Ankhnespepi became not only the queen but a powerful force in her own right, a true co-ruler who shaped the course of Egypt's history. As the reign of Pharaoh Pepi I entered its later years, his leadership was marked by both military conquests and strategic diplomacy that shaped Egypt's power and influence in the ancient world. Behind every victory, behind every expansion of Egypt's borders was the steady guidance of Queen Ankhnespepi I, whose diplomatic efforts, counsel, and foresight were key to Pepi I's military success. Together, they forged an era of growth that would solidify the Sixth Dynasty's place in Egypt's long history. Pepi I had inherited a kingdom that was still consolidating its power, one that faced numerous external threats and internal divisions. However, through the strength of his military campaigns, the king was able to strengthen Egypt's influence and expand its reach far beyond its borders. The pharaoh's determination to reassert Egypt's dominance, particularly to the south and north, would define his rule. Under Pepi I, Egypt would push deeper into Nubia and along the Mediterranean coast, expanding its territory and enriching the kingdom with valuable resources. However, it was Ankhnespepi's wisdom and diplomatic support that helped turn these military campaigns into lasting successes. The Nubian campaigns were among the most significant of Pepi I's military endeavors. Nubia, to the south of Egypt, was rich in gold and other precious resources, making it a critical region for the pharaohs of Egypt. But the conquest of Nubia was not solely driven by economic need, it was a political necessity. The kingdom of Nubia had always been a potential rival to Egypt, and its strategic location made it vital for Egypt's control over trade routes and military security. While Pepi I led the Egyptian army in the field, Ankhnespepi played an essential role in the diplomatic front. She worked tirelessly to ensure that Egypt's alliances in the region remained strong, securing support from other African kingdoms and preventing potential alliances against Egypt. Her diplomatic tact and ability to negotiate with neighboring rulers ensured that Pepi I's campaigns were not bogged down by unnecessary conflicts with other powers. As Pepi I's armies pushed deeper into Nubia, Ankhnespepi's influence helped guide the political structure of the conquered lands. She knew that simply conquering a territory was not enough. Egypt needed to establish long-term control over these regions. Through her diplomatic efforts, Ankhnespepi was instrumental in setting up a system of governance in Nubia that would ensure Egyptian interests were upheld while maintaining stability in the region. She arranged for the installation of loyal Egyptian governors overseeing the collection of tribute and ensuring that the region remained aligned with Egypt's political goals. Her involvement in these campaigns was not just limited to foreign diplomacy, she also played a vital role in ensuring the smooth functioning of Egypt's economy during this period of expansion. As Egypt's borders grew, so did its need for resources and efficient management of the kingdom's affairs. Ankhnespepi's experience in managing Egypt's internal matters, especially her ability to oversee the supply of food, resources, and military provisions, was essential in sustaining Egypt's growing empire. Her keen understanding of logistics ensured that the Egyptian army, as well as the people, had the necessary resources to continue Egypt's military successes without overburdening the nation. In addition to the southern campaigns, Pepi I also turned his attention to the north, expanding Egypt's influence along the Mediterranean coast. The Delta region, an area that had historically been prone to foreign influence, needed to be fortified against any potential invasions. Pepi I's military campaigns along the northern border were aimed at solidifying Egypt's control over the area, securing its access to trade routes, and preventing other foreign powers from gaining a foothold. Ankhnespepi's diplomatic role in these northern campaigns was just as important as her influence in the south. She worked to maintain Egypt's relationships with neighboring Mediterranean powers, ensuring that they would remain neutral in Egypt's expansionist endeavors. She also worked to strengthen Egypt's trade ties with these nations, using diplomacy to ensure that Egypt remained the dominant power in the region. Her careful handling of these foreign relationships allowed Egypt to expand its borders without facing significant opposition from powerful neighbors. Under Pepi I's leadership and Ankhnespepi's guidance, Egypt enjoyed a period of unprecedented expansion. The kingdom's wealth grew with the acquisition of new lands rich in resources, while its military might was reinforced by these strategic conquests. The territory gained through Pepi I's campaigns provided the pharaoh with the resources needed to support a flourishing economy and the manpower required to maintain control over the expanded borders. These military victories not only ensured Egypt's dominance in the region but also secured Egypt's position as a leading power in the ancient world. However, as the kingdom grew, so too did the complexity of its governance. Ankhnespepi knew that the key to sustaining Egypt's success lay in the careful management of the newly acquired lands. While Pepi I focused on military strategy and external relations, it was Ankhnespepi who ensured that the internal structures of Egypt remained strong. Her ability to balance the demands of an expanding empire with the needs of the royal court was one of the key factors that allowed the Sixth Dynasty to continue thriving. With Egypt's territorial expansion came a need for new systems of governance and administration. Ankhnespepi took an active role in overseeing the administration of Egypt's new provinces, ensuring that local leaders remained loyal to the crown. She also played a crucial role in the recruitment and training of officials who would manage the affairs of the newly acquired lands, ensuring that Egypt's bureaucracy remained efficient and effective. Her attention to detail and her ability to maintain a tight grip on the internal workings of the empire helped ensure that the newly conquered territories were integrated smoothly into Egypt's larger political structure. In the years that followed, the results of Ankhnespepi's influence and Pepi I's military campaigns were clear. Egypt had become a vast empire, with control over much of Nubia and the northern regions of Africa. The wealth from these territories flowed into Egypt, providing the kingdom with the resources it needed to continue its expansion. Egypt's borders were secure and its influence was felt throughout the ancient world. The lasting legacy of Pepi I's reign and Ankhnespepi's contribution to it would be remembered as a time of great prosperity and strength for Egypt. Together, Pepi I and Ankhnespepi had forged a period of expansion that set the stage for the continued dominance of the Sixth Dynasty. Their combined efforts through military conquest, diplomatic strategy, and effective governance ensured that Egypt would not only survive but thrive for generations to come. As the years of Pharaoh Pepi I's reign stretched on, the initial burst of military conquests and territorial expansion began to slow. The once boundless energy of Egypt's military campaigns gave way to a more measured approach. Though Egypt had reached new heights of power and influence under his leadership, the challenges of ruling an expansive empire began to take their toll. The pressures of managing a growing bureaucracy, maintaining peace in the newly acquired lands, and ensuring stability within the royal court started to weigh heavily on the aging pharaoh. Pepi I's health began to falter in his later years, and the once mighty ruler found himself grappling with the complexities of ruling a vast and increasingly strained empire. The external threats that had driven his early campaigns had subsided, but new challenges arose. The cost of maintaining a large military presence in far-flung territories drained the kingdom's resources, and internal unrest, both from ambitious court officials and from the far provinces, threatened to destabilize the foundations of the dynasty. Despite these challenges, Ankhnespepi I remained a constant and powerful influence. She had been by Pepi's side throughout the entire arc of his reign, guiding him through both the triumphs and the trials. And now, as his health waned and the empire's future grew uncertain, it was Ankhnespepi who remained the stabilizing force, navigating the political currents with the skill and wisdom that had defined her entire life. Her role in the court had never been more crucial. As Pepi I's physical health deteriorated, Ankhnespepi's authority grew. Though she was not the ruling pharaoh, she had always been a pivotal figure in the inner workings of the royal court, and now, her influence over the decisions of the court reached new heights. It was clear to everyone at the palace that Pepi I's reign was nearing its end. And Ankhnespepi was often the one who kept the kingdom's affairs in order, ensuring that the delicate balance of power within the royal court was maintained. Ankhnespepi's greatest challenge was preparing her son, Pepi II, for the throne. Though he was still a young child, the transition of power was a matter of great importance. The death of Pepi I would leave a vacuum at the top of Egypt's power structure, and without a smooth succession, the entire kingdom could fall into chaos. As the Queen Mother, Ankhnespepi took it upon herself to groom her son for leadership, making sure he was well-versed in the ways of governance, diplomacy, and religious observance. She knew that the future of Egypt depended on the ability of the next pharaoh to unite the kingdom and continue the legacy of the Sixth Dynasty. Despite the decline of her husband, Ankhnespepi's influence continued to grow. While the power struggles at the royal court became more pronounced, the Queen Mother's careful navigation of political alliances helped to keep Egypt's elite factions in check. She maintained her relationships with the high-ranking officials and military leaders who had been loyal to Pepi I, ensuring that they remained faithful to the royal family. Her diplomatic efforts were especially crucial during this time, as the distant provinces could easily have slipped into rebellion. Through her guidance, Ankhnespepi ensured that Egypt remained cohesive and the administration of the kingdom stayed intact during Pepi I's final years. Though Pepi I's reign had been marked by military expansion and external triumph, the latter years of his rule were more focused on internal stability. As his health failed, Egypt's military campaigns grew fewer, and the focus shifted to maintaining control over the territory Egypt had already acquired. Pepi I's inability to lead in the field left the military weakened, and though the kingdom was rich and powerful, it was increasingly vulnerable to challenges from within and without. Ankhnespepi I understood this. She knew that while Egypt's borders were secure for now, the kingdom could not continue to rely solely on military power. In the absence of aggressive expansion, she turned her attention to reinforcing the internal structure of the empire. It was during these years that the Queen Mother placed great importance on fostering economic stability, ensuring that Egypt's wealth, especially from the newly conquered territories, was used wisely to sustain the kingdom. She worked to strengthen the country's economy, focusing on agriculture, trade, and the temple economy. Ankhnespepi knew that maintaining Egypt's prosperity in the face of an aging monarch required careful planning and long-term vision. In addition to her administrative efforts, Ankhnespepi continued to oversee the religious duties of the court. As the queen consort and mother of the future pharaoh, she remained a key figure in Egypt's religious practices, and her continued support of the temples and the priesthood ensured that Egypt's spiritual life remained strong. Through her patronage of the gods, she helped solidify the divine legitimacy of the royal family, ensuring that the people of Egypt continued to see their rulers as representatives of the gods on earth. But even as Ankhnespepi's influence remained strong, the challenges facing the royal family were clear. There were whispers at court about who would truly govern Egypt in Pepi I's absence. Though Ankhnespepi had no official title beyond queen consort, her role as the mother of the next pharaoh and her history of political maneuvering made her one of the most powerful figures in Egypt. Yet, not everyone in the court was pleased with her rising influence. Ambitious nobles and military leaders saw her as an obstacle to their own aspirations, and they began to position themselves in preparation for Pepi I's death. Despite these challenges, Ankhnespepi continued to work tirelessly to maintain stability. She strengthened the royal court's authority by ensuring that the succession would be uncontested, positioning her son Pepi II to ascend the throne as smoothly as possible. As Queen Mother, Ankhnespepi took on the dual responsibility of protecting the kingdom and safeguarding the future of the royal family. While the political landscape of Egypt grew more complicated with Pepi I's decline, she remained resolute, ensuring that Egypt's power would survive into the next generation. The final years of Pepi I's reign were marked by increasing reliance on Ankhnespepi, who had come to represent not only the continuity of the royal bloodline but also the stability of Egypt itself. As her husband's health faltered, it was her strength and resolve that kept Egypt on course. Through her efforts, the decline of the old king did not result in a collapse of power. Instead, Ankhnespepi ensured that the royal family remained unified and the people of Egypt remained loyal to their pharaoh even as they faced the inevitable transition from one ruler to the next. Ankhnespepi I's influence during this crucial period helped secure Egypt's future. Though Pepi I's reign was drawing to a close, the legacy of the Sixth Dynasty remained intact, thanks to the queen's steady hand and unwavering devotion to her kingdom. The final years of Ankhnespepi I were marked by the quiet strength of a woman who had secured her place in history. As her husband, Pharaoh Pepi I, began to fade into the twilight of his reign, the queen's influence over the affairs of Egypt remained steadfast. However, it was clear to all that the future of the kingdom rested in the hands of her son, Pepi II, and that a new chapter in Egypt's long history was about to begin. Yet, despite the inevitable transition of power, Ankhnespepi's legacy was already being etched into the annals of Egypt's great dynasties. Ankhnespepi I's contributions were not merely political. She had ensured the continuity of the Sixth Dynasty, a dynasty that had once been precariously founded by her father, Pharaoh Teti. Under her guidance, Egypt had been stabilized, its borders expanded, and its economy strengthened. But perhaps her most enduring legacy was the role she played in preserving the sacred order of Egypt, the divine Mot, which underpinned the very existence of the kingdom. In the years following Pepi I's death, it was not just the stability of the kingdom that Ankhnespepi ensured. Her influence had been so pervasive that her legacy was felt in every corner of Egypt. Whether through the political alliances she had crafted, the military victories she had helped secure, or the religious practices she had supported. As the mother of the future pharaoh, she had ensured that Egypt's spiritual and political foundations remained strong and unbroken. Though Ankhnespepi never officially ruled as pharaoh, her influence during the reign of her son Pepi II was profound. She was more than just a mother to the future king. She was his mentor and advisor, and her political wisdom guided him during the formative years of his reign. Pepi II would go on to rule Egypt for an astounding 94 years. The longest reign of any pharaoh, but his ascension was made possible by the careful preparation and guidance of Ankhnespepi. It was during Pepi II's reign that the true extent of Ankhnespepi's legacy became apparent, though Egypt would eventually face challenges in the later years of his rule. The kingdom had been solidified during his early years under the careful stewardship of his mother. Ankhnespepi had set the stage for Egypt's prosperity, and the strength of her legacy would resonate through the generations. One of the queen's most significant contributions was her role in securing Egypt's religious and cultural continuity. Ankhnespepi had long been a patron of the gods, a protector of Egypt's divine order. She had overseen the construction of grand temples and had ensured that the priesthood remained loyal to the crown. Her involvement in religious rituals, her patronage of religious institutions, and her careful management of Egypt's sacred rites all played a crucial role in reinforcing the divine legitimacy of the royal family. Her name was immortalized in the temples and monuments of Egypt. In the grandest temples of the land, her image was often depicted alongside her husband and son, a reminder of the powerful and divine force she had been in the kingdom. Ankhnespepi's presence in these sacred spaces was not just symbolic, it was a testament to her enduring power as queen, mother, and protector of Egypt. The strength of her character, her political acumen, and her spiritual devotion were all celebrated in the monumental works that dotted the Egyptian landscape. As the years went by, Ankhnespepi's name became synonymous with wisdom and strength. She was remembered not just as the wife of Pepi I, but as a woman who had shaped the course of Egypt's history. Her role in preserving Egypt's unity, ensuring the smooth transition of power to Pepi II, and maintaining the kingdom's prosperity was undeniable. Egypt, in many ways, owed its continued greatness to her unwavering commitment to the welfare of the nation. The queen's legacy was also reflected in the way the royal court operated during Pepi II's reign. Though Pepi II was a young king, Ankhnespepi's influence was still felt in the decision-making processes of the court. She had been a queen who had understood the importance of alliances, of maintaining peace within the court, and of navigating the complexities of governance. These lessons were passed down to her son, ensuring that his reign was marked by wisdom and stability. As the years passed and Egypt's borders remained secure, the memory of Ankhnespepi lived on in the hearts of the people. They remembered her not just as a queen, but as a mother, a ruler in her own right and a protector of Egypt's future. The monuments and temples she had helped to build continued to stand, towering over the sands of time as symbols of her strength and influence. Her name was inscribed in the annals of Egyptian history as one of the most powerful women to ever have lived, a figure who had shaped the destiny of one of the world's greatest civilizations. Her legacy was also carried forward in the way the royal family ruled in the centuries that followed. Ankhnespepi had set a standard for future queens and mothers of pharaohs. She had shown that a woman could wield power, influence, and wisdom in a world dominated by men. She had demonstrated that a queen could be both a protector of her people and a mother to the future ruler, shaping the course of Egypt's history with the same strength as any pharaoh. In the end, Ankhnespepi I was not just a queen in the traditional sense, she was a matriarch whose impact reached far beyond her lifetime. Her name became synonymous with the strength of the Sixth Dynasty, and her influence continued to resonate through the ages. She was a queen who had shaped the very foundations of Egypt, securing its future through her wisdom, her diplomacy, and her unwavering dedication to her people. And so, as the sun set over the vast, ancient land of Egypt, Ankhnespepi I's legacy remained as eternal as the pyramids she had helped to protect, a queen whose strength and vision had ensured the greatness of Egypt for generations to come. Queen Ankhnespepi I's influence on Egypt was not limited to her time as queen consort or even to the early years of her son Pepi II's reign. Her lasting impact was felt in the very fabric of Egyptian society, shaping the culture, politics, and governance for generations to come. Long after her death, the echoes of her wisdom, her political strategies, and her unwavering commitment to Egypt's prosperity continued to reverberate throughout the land of the pharaohs. Ankhnespepi's most profound influence was on the political and administrative structure of Egypt. As queen, she had played an integral role in managing the court, negotiating alliances, and stabilizing Egypt during her husband's reign. Her guidance had been pivotal in navigating the turbulent political landscape of the royal court, where power struggles between rival factions could easily destabilize the kingdom. Through her diplomatic acumen, she helped maintain unity among the ruling elite, preventing rebellion and dissent within the royal court. In the years following her death, her approach to governance continued to inspire future rulers. The concept of a queen consort, not merely as a passive figurehead but as a powerful political force in her own right, became a model for future queens of Egypt. Her role in strengthening the kingdom's political infrastructure was a precedent that would guide other women who would follow in her footsteps. Ankhnespepi had proven that a queen could wield influence and make decisions that would secure the kingdom's future, ensuring her legacy as a model of political strength. In addition to her political contributions, Ankhnespepi's influence on Egypt's military strategy and territorial expansion remained significant. During her reign as queen consort, Egypt had secured its southern borders through successful campaigns in Nubia, and Ankhnespepi's diplomatic efforts ensured that these territories remained aligned with Egypt's interests. Even after her death, her strategic understanding of the importance of Egypt's southern frontier continued to shape military and political decisions in the kingdom. Pepi II, who reigned long after his mother's passing, followed her example by maintaining the territorial gains she had helped secure. Culturally, Ankhnespepi's legacy was just as profound. As a patron of the arts and religious institutions, she ensured that Egypt's culture continued to flourish. Her patronage of temples and religious ceremonies, her support for artistic endeavors, and her involvement in the creation of monumental works all contributed to Egypt's rich cultural heritage. The religious institutions she had helped sustain continued to thrive, providing not only spiritual guidance for the people but also acting as a unifying force for the kingdom. The art and architecture of the Sixth Dynasty, shaped by Ankhnespepi's patronage, reflected the grandeur of Egypt's spiritual and political life. Temples dedicated to gods like Hathor, Osiris, and Ra, where Ankhnespepi had contributed resources and oversight, became symbols of Egypt's divine order. These sacred spaces, adorned with statues, reliefs, and carvings, celebrated the power of the gods and the divine legitimacy of the royal family. Ankhnespepi's image, often depicted alongside her husband and son, reinforced the idea that the queen was not just a consort but an active participant in the divine rule of Egypt. These monuments, which still stand today as some of Egypt's greatest architectural achievements, are a testament to her enduring cultural legacy. Moreover, Ankhnespepi's influence extended beyond the artistic and religious spheres into the realm of literature and intellectual life. The temples she supported were not only centers of worship but also hubs of learning and scholarship. The priesthood, which she had strengthened during her lifetime, was responsible for preserving Egypt's vast store of knowledge from religious texts to scientific writings and passing it down to future generations. Ankhnespepi understood the importance of education and intellectual development, and she ensured that Egypt's priestly class remained powerful, preserving the knowledge and culture of Egypt for centuries to come. Even in the later years of Pepi II's reign, when Egypt faced internal challenges, the cultural and intellectual infrastructure Ankhnespepi had helped build remained a source of strength. The traditions of art, architecture, and learning that she had supported continued to define Egypt's identity as a civilization. Her legacy lived on in the temples, the literature, and the intellectual traditions that shaped the very essence of Egyptian culture. But Ankhnespepi's influence wasn't confined to the court or to the elite. She understood that the prosperity of Egypt depended not just on the pharaoh and the nobility but on the well-being of the people. As queen, she had taken an active role in ensuring that the resources of Egypt were distributed fairly and that the people's needs were met. Her efforts to maintain agricultural stability and promote trade ensured that Egypt's economy remained robust throughout her reign. Ankhnespepi's policies, though largely behind the scenes, were crucial in ensuring that Egypt's wealth was not squandered and that the kingdom's resources were used to benefit both the elite and the common people. The queen's approach to governance, with its emphasis on balance, unity, and long-term planning, set a precedent for future rulers of Egypt. Ankhnespepi's legacy influenced not only her son, Pepi II, but also the future generations of pharaohs who would rule Egypt after him. Her ability to balance political, religious, military, and cultural concerns created a model of kingship that future rulers sought to emulate. Ankhnespepi I's influence on Egyptian society did not end with her death. Over the centuries, she was remembered not only as a queen but as a woman of great political and cultural significance. Her contributions to Egypt's prosperity, stability, and cultural heritage ensured that her legacy would be honored by the people for generations. The image of the queen as both a mother and a ruler, someone who could wield political power while nurturing the future of Egypt, became an enduring symbol of female strength and wisdom in the ancient world. In the grand sweep of Egypt's history, the reigns of the pharaohs were often marked by wars and conquests. But it was the legacy of Ankhnespepi I, one of Egypt's greatest queens, that helped ensure the kingdom's continued greatness. Her influence was felt in the temples of Egypt, in the halls of the royal palace, and in the hearts of the people. She was a queen who had not only shaped the destiny of Egypt, but had also crafted a legacy that would endure through the ages, influencing the politics, culture, and governance of the greatest civilization the world had ever known. The story of Queen Ankhnespepi I as one of the most influential figures in the history of ancient Egypt concluded not with the passing of time but through the lasting impact she had on both her kingdom and the world. Her name echoed through the halls of the grandest temples, in the annals of Egypt's royal history, and in the hearts of her descendants. In the grand tapestry of Egypt's past, Ankhnespepi stood as a pillar of wisdom, strength, and divine authority. Her reign as queen consort had been marked by an era of unprecedented prosperity for Egypt. Under the guidance of Pepi I, supported by her diplomatic acumen, military strategy, and wise counsel, Egypt reached the height of its power. But it was her role as a mother to Pepi II, as a protector of Egypt's future, that would truly define her legacy. Through her unwavering support, her careful political maneuvering, and her ability to maintain peace and order within the royal court, Ankhnespepi ensured that her son's reign would continue the legacy of the Sixth Dynasty, establishing one of the longest and most stable periods in Egyptian history. As the Queen Mother, Ankhnespepi's influence did not wane after the death of her husband. She continued to shape the course of Egypt's destiny, not only ensuring her son's smooth ascension to the throne, but also cementing her place as a power behind the throne. Her leadership, though often behind the scenes, left an indelible mark on Egypt's internal affairs, its culture, its diplomacy, and its governance. When Pepi II ascended to the throne, it was clear that the foundations laid by his mother would guide him in his early years. Ankhnespepi's role as a mentor, advisor, and protector of the royal lineage was vital. She ensured that Egypt's political and religious structures remained intact and that the kingdom, even as it faced internal challenges, remained a powerful force in the ancient world. Her legacy lived on in the flourishing arts, in the stability of Egypt's military, and in the strength of its economy, all of which she had worked tirelessly to preserve and grow. The monuments she had helped build, the temples she had supported, and the relationships she had forged with neighboring kingdoms stood as a testament to her influence. Even as the centuries passed, the grandeur of Egypt's architectural wonders continued to reflect her dedication to the nation. Statues of Ankhnespepi alongside her husband and son, still visible in Egypt's ancient temples, became symbols not just of royal power but of the enduring bond between a mother, a king, and the divine rule of Egypt. In the hearts of the people, she was remembered as a queen who had not only secured the future of her dynasty but had also embodied the essence of Egyptian strength and wisdom. Her reign had been one of unity, stability, and cultural flourishing. Ankhnespepi I had redefined what it meant to be a queen in Egypt, proving that a woman could wield power, influence, and wisdom to shape the future of an empire. Though her time as queen consort had ended with her death, Ankhnespepi's influence continued to be felt throughout Egypt. Her legacy endured through the rule of her son, through the monuments she had commissioned, and through the cultural institutions she had helped maintain. Her role in preserving Egypt's power, expanding its borders, and protecting its spiritual and political heritage was central to the greatness that would define the Sixth Dynasty. In the end, Ankhnespepi I was not just the consort of Pepi I, nor merely the mother of Pepi II. She was a queen who shaped the destiny of one of the world's greatest civilizations. Her strength, her wisdom, and her devotion to Egypt's prosperity ensured that the Sixth Dynasty would not only survive but thrive. Her legacy as a mother, a queen, and a protector of Egypt's future continues to resonate through the corridors of time as her name is remembered alongside the greatest rulers of the ancient world. The story of Ankhnespepi I is a story of power, influence, and the indomitable will of a woman who, through her leadership, secured the future of Egypt for generations to come. Her reign may have ended, but her legacy was eternal, immortalized in the culture, politics, and history of one of the world's most ancient and powerful civilizations.